Hello and welcome to Sensitive Changemakers, the podcast where we celebrate the power of sensitivity and introversion in leadership, entrepreneurship and beyond. I'm Kate Carter, your host, a certified professional coach, HSP and introvert who's passionate about helping you embrace your unique gifts and lead with authenticity. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Sensitive Changemakers. I am incredibly honoured to have a wonderful guest on today. So we have Meg Trucano, who is a PhD, is a developmental psychologist, former federal researcher, and the founder of a psychology-based coaching practice for ambitious women navigating major life, career, lifestyle, and identity changes. After burning out from a high-level research career, she created her coaching practice and the Real Change Framework to help women ditch their shoulds, reclaim their energy, and start making unapologetically self-directed decisions. She is the host of the Changeology podcast, which explores the art, science, philosophy, and psychology of making big, bold, badass life changes. She is also wife to an Ironman triathlete husband and mum to boy-girl twin toddlers who make everything more interesting. Meg, it's so lovely to have you on. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for today's conversation.
Yes, I know last time we spoke, I feel like we dug deep pretty quickly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I think once we recognized that we were kind of on the same wavelength and we spoke each other's language, we got off to the races. Yep.
Yes. And I know I would like to go in straight away, if that's okay, and talk about being highly sensitive. And first of all, what does that mean for you currently being highly sensitive in your life?
Wow. So currently I'm actually trying to navigate it again, right? So just to kind of give you a little bit and give the listeners a little bit of a backstory, I learned very late, like as in maybe 2 years ago now, that I was highly sensitive. It made sense when I learned that it was an actual thing, and I went online and I took the assessment, and it came back as that was it. And it was interesting and it made a ton of sense as to how I had lived my life up until then and like various inclinations and things. But now, as my toddlers are getting into their really intense developmental stage, I'll say, I'm having to renegotiate and kind of navigate it again because it means something totally different in my current context, right? So previously, before the kids, I would just need a little bit more rest and a little bit more respite from kind of input, if that makes sense. So that's social media, that's news. I'm not a news person. I'm coming to terms with what this means about me as a person. But if my husband tells me something that's important that happens, and I'll go and I'll read about it and I'll inform myself, but I have to just kind of protect myself because it just affects me so strongly that I can't function with anything else.
Completely and utterly relate.
Yes. And so, as you know, like things in the United States are very distressing right now, as in other parts of the world, obviously. So I really do rely on other people to sort of help it, to be my tribe and to sort of feed me what I need to know. And otherwise, I just try to create a space where I can do my best work and be my best self so that I can show up in a way that's in integrity for me, but also better for other people, right? They get the best version of me. But yeah, definitely right now, as the United States is sort of falling apart and my kids are hitting a developmentally rich time, it's just, I'm having to piece what it looks like together again, if that makes sense.
Because I'm really interested in that, because I think you're absolutely spot on. I was very much like you, like I didn't learn that I was highly sensitive until I was definitely in my 30s. I think I was in my late 30s. Yes, I think I was. So it was a late realization. And like you said, you realize how everything, when you look back, completely makes sense because of it. And I will want to come back to that later. But I think when you found a way of, I don't want to say managing it, but I do think before you realize you're highly sensitive, it is managing because you think that you're not normal. So
Yeah.
you've absolutely found a way of managing it, thinking, right, okay, well, I have to do things this way, but I won't make a big deal about it, or I won't bring it to anybody's attention. I'll just secretly do it this way. And then when you have kids, yeah, I think you really do have to relook at it all again and think, right, okay, what does this mean in this context? I know for me, and I'd be really interested to hear from you, when I had kids, there were certain things that they did that I found really triggering. Like, I could feel a response in me. I'm like, why do I find this overwhelming? What is it in this situation that is so much? Do you see what I mean? It just kind of flares up and I'm like, where is this coming from? What is this?
Do you mind sharing what those things were for your kids? Do you remember?
When it was too much, what I mean by that is they were doing lots of different things at the same time, and I couldn't track. I mean, I know every mum has this. I'm very aware that I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? But it went a step further. Like, I found it really triggering for me to go, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And it's when they were doing too much at once. I also struggled when they got poorly. I found that really hard. And again, it sounds, as I'm saying it, and I don't want it to come across this way, so I just want to kind of just clear this up. It was never about me in that situation. It was always about my kids. But I let it affect me so much that I really had to think about, right, how do I want to be present in this situation? Because at the moment, I don't think I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Completely understand. And I was discussing this actually yesterday with my husband, that there are different, like, we get triggered with different things that they do, but mine is very similar to your experience, where I'm like, if my attention is fractured and we add a layer of like toddler screaming and carrying on, and like, or if they're like hurting each other or ripping toys from each other, it's that, to me, the pain, the like, oh, he pulled my hair, that kind of toddler. And they're both like, they're twins, so they like are both at this very, like, we're learning boundaries and we're learning how to deal with anger and things like that. But sometimes it just happens and you have to react. But yeah, that is, I will. The other day my husband came home, I was like, I need to go upstairs. I went upstairs, put the covers over my head, and I huddled there. And there was a lot of shame around that too, because it's like, what the hell is wrong with me that I can't even spend this time with my kids? Like, I have to like take breaks from them. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting ride. And I think I've found two things that really work for me. And that is really strong communication with my parenting partner, my husband. And we both are very much on the same page, and we'll kind of toss the baton back and forth to one another. And my heart goes out to all the single parents and doing this yourself. I can't even imagine. But so that helps, is like having a knowing that I have someone that can kind of step in and take over if I'm really struggling. But then also just building periodic rest, and like, not even rest, but like extraction into my day. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I know my son, because obviously I don't have twins, and that adds, I can imagine, an extra element to the whole situation as well. But my son cried and cried from the day he was born until he was about a year old. And then he just switched, and he was a really happy toddler, and I'm so grateful for that. There'd be times when my husband worked in the evenings and I would be at home in the day, and I still remember to this point holding Jake, waiting for Damon to come home so I could go, Damon, here, have him. I'm out. I've got to go for a walk. I've got to go. And probably at that time, because I didn't realize I was highly sensitive at all at that time, I think, like where we were talking about earlier, just doing what I felt was the best at that situation for me to then be able to go back and be a mum again. I needed that, like you said, that extraction, that just kind of okay, recalibrate, just get back to kind of a balance, and then I can go back. But it did have that extra layer, like I said, because he obviously, there was something, we never found out why. I don't know. there must have been something that was upsetting his system, but he just cried, and he would never sleep. So we used to do the whole, put him down. I still remember going to bend over the cot and put him down, and I'd put him down. I'm like, and then as soon as I moved my arms away, he'd start crying. I was like, oh, okay, pick him back up.
Yep.
And we did try the whole sort of, I remember somebody saying, just let them cry. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. Because at that time I was like, I'll try anything.
Yeah.
And he just cried and cried. And it got to a stage where I was like, I can't physically let that keep going. Like he's obviously upset. It's not working. So yeah, it was, yeah, I can well imagine having two of them.
Well, yeah. And to be fair, I don't know any different. So
Yes.
this is just kind of my experience. I only have the two. I didn't have a singleton before, which I know some parents of twins do. And again, bless them.
Yeah. I think that's the message here, isn't it? Bless single
Yes.
parents. Bless anybody who's done kind of single and then twin.
Yes.
Yes. And I know we kind of touched on it, but we spoke about realizing you're highly sensitive and then looking back at your past and kind of seeing things through a different lens. What did you notice about when you were younger that actually was very much in the realms of being highly sensitive, but maybe you didn't know that at the time?
So I think the biggest period of like, oh, I am different. Like I experience things differently, even though I didn't know what to call it. It was in college for me. And I went to a college that had a very, what do you want to say, split personality, like very hardworking, very ambitious students and very hard partying, right?
Wow.
And I tried so hard to like be into that and to just be normal and show up and have a good time, and everybody's talking about how awesome this party was and how fun it was. And I'm like, oh my God, I had it like I was miserable that entire time. And so I always just sort of figured that I was from a small town in the Midwest, that I didn't do any partying before I went to college. And so I thought maybe I just was new at it, or, I had all these different explanations for why I really hated that part of the culture. And it was so embedded in the culture that it was like nobody didn't do that, right? Like nobody didn't go out and whatever. So I think that was the thing that I was like, oh, that makes total sense. That makes total sense in retrospect, that it was just too much. And I remember thinking, like, hanging on the walls, right? Like total wallflower, and just counting down the hours until I could go home, and like reasonable hours, right? So you can't go home at 10 o'clock. Like in fact, the party's just getting started, right? So, but things like that. I think that was the period that it was most apparent to me, because I did have a kind of like slow upbringing and like very regimented, very like I was in bed by 9 p.m. every night and all of that through school, which I think helped me a lot without really knowing it.
Yeah. Having those routines almost.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one of my big things as you were talking there. I kind of remembered one of the things that I did was, and it wasn't a good thing at all. It really wasn't a good habit. And I didn't like it about myself at all. But I would say yes to things because I thought I should do. And then it'd get up to the day and I'd be like, I can't do that. And then I'd end up making an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It's normally I'm not feeling very well, which I wasn't, but it wasn't physical. But it was such a bad habit to get into. But looking back, that was one of the ways that I kind of not successfully managed it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if I genuinely don't know, looking back, if like there were other hidden HSPs and, they were suffering the same way I was, or if it's just, I really was kind of one of the only people like that.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think there's obviously more of us than we realise because we are 20%, but I don't think a lot of people had that language. Definitely not when I was at university and that kind of age range. It wasn't something that was talked about, or even kind of, there wasn't, not even the concept of it, to be honest.
Yep.
Just put your head down and get on with it and do what you've got to do and be that person that everybody expects you to be almost.
Yes.
So interesting. And so you were talking about kind of school, university time. How did you get into being a researcher, and how has that led to where you are today?
It's been a really interesting circuitous path. So out of college, I took a job, a local job actually, to my university at a survey development company. And so I did that for a little while. And then I applied to grad schools after a couple of years there, got in at the same university that I went to originally. So I went back to that same school. And yeah, I went through it's a 5-year program in the US. And after I finished that program, I once again found myself like, oh no, what am I going to do? Do I want to do academia? I was way underpublished at that point to even consider doing academia. And so I opted to take a job in the quote unquote big city, Washington, D.C. So coming from Indiana and going to Washington, D.C. And I had a horrible first year here. It was a rough transition. And I think a lot of it was money related. It was like I wasn't really making enough money to afford where I was living. And I don't know, it was just like it was a really big period of identity shifting. So then after that kind of initial job out of grad school that brought me here to the city, I got another research job that was a little bit more rigorous, a little bit more like it required me to have the PhD. And so I went and I loved it. It was, the people were incredible, and the things that we were, as a very small policy research firm, the things that we were researching and evaluating were extremely important in terms of the social structure of, our country, education related, food and nutrition related things like that. And so I did well, right? And I climbed the quote unquote ladder, and I just kind of found myself thinking that this deep level of satisfaction and enjoyment and fulfillment would come with the next first authorship of a paper, or the next project directorship, or the next big project landed, or something like that. And it just never came. And add to that, like, it's a very stressful job. When you're working with the federal government, you have a lot of hoops to jump through, and you have to be on your game. And there were periods during the summertime, which I love the summer. I grew up in North Dakota. So like, I absolutely adore the summertime. That's proposal season. It is one of the most stressful times in the calendar for a federal contractor. So all this to say, I did it for, let's see here, how long was I there? There was some overlap there too, but about 7 years, I think, is what I spent there. And then like after COVID and we were all kind of still at home, I hit burnout really, really hard, and nothing I did helped. I knew I was doing the wrong thing, but I had no freaking idea what else would do it. And so I started working with a coach at the time, and she helped me build out a side hustle that was money coaching, actually. So I would help my friends and my acquaintances like build budgets, and then pretty soon I got into the meat of it and realized, oh, okay, these people are coming to me with help for money stuff. And yes, it is money, but it's also like much deeper than that and much more interesting. And so when I started focusing more on what causes the money symptom trouble, that's when I found my current niche, which is helping people through periods of change. So that could be career related, most often is career related, sometimes identity related, sometimes lifestyle related, right? Relationships, that kind of thing. But I just remember at one point my coach sitting across from me and saying, okay, so we've been working together for, a year and some, and I just want to ask you a really simple question. What's it going to feel like in another year when you're sitting there and telling me the same thing because you haven't done anything different? How are you going to feel? And I was like, oh, okay. And so I cue breakdown, and then I just kind of made a plan to do this full time. And it took about 6 months to save up the money and all of that from my paychecks to, because, entrepreneurship is, you got to learn a lot, and you've got to, going from a side hustle to a full-time gig is a big deal. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how I got here.
Wow.
I'm actually, I think in a couple of days, I'll be 4 years in official business. So
Yay.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank
That's
you.
really good. It's been such a journey, hasn't it? And I really do feel that this doesn't get talked about enough, is the ups and downs of it. I think so many people, however they kind of come into entrepreneurship, they have an idea of what that's going to look like. I know I did. And it was very much, this is piece A, and I'm going to slot it into piece B, and that's it. It'll just work and it'll be fine. And then, like you said, it really is. It's such a journey, and it really does force you to look at every part of your inner world as much as your outer
Yes.
world,
Mhm.
don't you think?
Oh my gosh. If I knew that, I might have like deferred starting my business and just like worked on myself in order
Yes.
you know what I mean? But um that's not how it works. You have
Hmm.
to you have to experience it, and you have to feel through it, and you have to learn from it. And I think that piece about expecting it to look different and kind of making yourself wrong if it does
Mm.
look different is a huge part of the puzzle. And I think that's a lot of the reason why so many entrepreneurs give up, is because it doesn't look the way that they thought it would, or it doesn't work out the way that they thought it would. And in some instances, I'm sure closing a business is the right move, but in others, it's complicated, and you have to be soul matched with what you're doing and with the why behind what you're doing to be able to endure all of that stuff.
Yes. I love that word, soul matched. And I've got a couple of questions that have come up from that. First of all, the soul matched. Let me talk about that because I think that's absolutely key. And I think, again, an area that I don't know if you've had much experience with this, but one of the things that I do in sessions is really starting with values and priorities with clients, because it gives me such a grounded lens then to kind of reflect and mirror things back to people. And it also, like you said, it really is a good indicator of, well, you're saying that these are your values, but actually this is your business.
Mhm.
There seems to be a bit of a misalignment there. Do you want to talk me through that? What's going on? What was the thought process? And so I find that so interesting. In your own experience with your own business, did you find when you started with the money idea to start off with, for example, did you feel soul matched to that, or was it just a case of, I'll try this and see how it goes? I'm really interested to hear your thought
Oh,
process.
that's a good question. I'm still soul matched with that, but I know that, so that was actually a business decision. So I love helping women seize their own power again. And sometimes that's, in that initial iteration of my business, that was with money.
Hmm.
And what an empowering thing to be in charge of your own money and to feel confident in that,
Yeah.
right? And then I realized that it's a hard thing to quote unquote sell people having paying someone to help them with their money that they're really struggling to manage,
Hmm.
right? So the people that needed my help the most couldn't afford me.
Hmm.
And not even that I was charging like insane amounts, but like it was just kind of not the best business model. And so then I took the opportunity to like get really into the why these women were struggling so much with money. And it came back to these same things that I deal with now, which is, do you feel agency in your own
Hmm.
life? Do you feel like you are worth having ambitions and dreams that don't fit with maybe how you've done things so far? Do you feel like you are capable of doing something different? And a lot of the same things would come up. Like I call them the insidious shoulds. I'm sure you've come up with similar ways to phrase it, but it's like those things that go on in the back of your head that guide your behavior, right?
Hmm.
That are like telling you that you should and shouldn't do something. We
Hmm.
got to bring those up and really examine them, because those are the things that get you into a place where you're on autopilot and get you to a place of burnout. So I found that those things were still operating underneath the money symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
and decided that that was a better business decision. I still do money stuff with my clients, but it's just not how I advertise myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think, like you said, it's never really about the money. There's always something deeper going on that's actually driving that.
Yes.
And those shoulds, yeah, I always say if a should is coming up, it's not normally your voice.
No,
It's
isn't that interesting?
yeah, it's normally an expectation or somebody else's voice.
Yep. Yep.
And it still pop up for me. It came up for me actually, way back when in therapy, when he said, "You realize you keep saying should." I was like, "No, I didn't." So it was a kind of realization in my own life that now I use very much in my coaching sessions. So yes, I love that. And I'm going to come back to what you were talking about, because I have an inkling that this is very true for a lot of highly sensitives, is this idea that we have to feel things through. And I don't know what your take on this. I've spoken to quite a few people, and I very much feel it like I can make a decision. I can absolutely make a decision, but I won't know whether that's right for me until I've actually experienced it and felt it through. Like I can't make those, some people make those projection kind of decisions like 6 months into the future or a year into the future. I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know how you feel.
I have tried that so many times and it just has never worked. And so I had to kind of let go of that level of desired control, right? Like
Yes.
I just don't, I know now that I just don't have that kind of control over anything in my life. And so honestly, this has been really top of mind lately. And so I'm going to go there since you asked. But in case somebody else needs to hear this and it's helpful because it was so helpful for me, I'm doing all the things, right? I'm doing the parenting things. I'm doing the stuff for my business. I'm doing the personal development things. I'm an artist. I'm doing our artistry stuff. But I'm like, and I'm using air quotes here for those who are listening. I'm not getting anywhere, right? Like I feel very stuck and stagnant. And a good friend of mine was like, Meg, you're trying too hard to direct your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the director's seat and you're trying to like squeeze everything in instead of just like sitting back and using your agency to decide from what comes across your desk or your plate or whatever. And I thought that is so genius because that's exactly the way to look at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not abdicating my agency to choose for my life. I'm not the kind of person to sit on my laurels. Like I 100% am an action taker and all of that. But at the same time, I don't need to try so hard to make everything fit into a narrative or fit into a box. And when you let go of that, everything just is like, I can breathe, you know?
Yes, yes. And this is kind of backed up to what I really see with highly sensitives is this control versus intuition. So, and this is my take on it, so I'm sure that not everybody would agree, but I feel that as highly sensitives, we've learnt control very early on in our life in lots of different ways because we've had to survive in the society that we've grown up in. But actually, I feel that underneath it, we're incredibly intuitive beings.
Yes.
And I think that those two things, unless you don't see it in yourself, can really go up against one another. And it's almost like a heart head war or a battle.
Yes. Yes. And that is exactly what this friend told me. It's like, I knew all the things, like I'm tapping my head right now. I knew all the things cognitively and from working as a coach and self-coaching and having a coach myself and all of this. I know the things. And my heart knows that that's the right way, but my heart and my head were not talking the same language. And there just needed to be some kind of like realignment there. And I think for me, it was just letting the reins be a little bit looser. It's not like I don't show up in the same way. I do. If you look at my days before I had this epiphany and my days after I had this epiphany, they're the same. They have the same things in them, but I feel so much lighter because I'm not so concerned with jamming everything where it needs to be and demanding that it look the way I think it should look.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely 100% agree. I think I know with my life, if something doesn't feel like it's working, or I'm feeling really frustrated
Mm.
or even resentful,
Mm.
normally it's because I'm trying to control things. I'm trying to either do too much, make things happen. And actually, it is, like you said, there is an element of letting go. And that doesn't mean not taking action, but it means letting go of the expectations around that action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think there's a little bit of in any kind of surrender and in any kind of like letting go of tight control over things like that. Um, you in so doing, you do create space for things to come to you. And again, like you can hear that as many times as people want to say it, but until you experience the difference between tight-fisted control and just sort of letting things come, you just the heart and the head are just not going to speak the same language. And for me, that's been huge. So I'm a big fan of just sort of relaxing a little bit. And like, it's so hard. And I really don't want to make light of how difficult it is, both as HSPs and as just human beings, right? Because that's how we deal with some of the big stuff, right? Is we hunker down and we control what we can. And I think it's a natural mechanism, but at the same time, it's counterproductive, at least for me.
And we're in a society that really does celebrate do.
Yes.
Like I always think, we always talk about just putting your head down and getting on with it, but we never talk about just being, like the do be. Like it's always do. It's never be. We're never allowed to just be. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. And that is one of the things that we talk a lot about in with my clients and I, is this difference between like, who are you if you're not this CEO level person doing these big things? And to understand that you have value because you exist and you are here. That's it. That's all that you need to do to be worth everything. You don't have to do anything. That doesn't mean that you necessarily don't want to do those things or wouldn't benefit society from doing those things, or can't be ambitious. I don't think that's the case at all. But your value as a human being is not predicated on what you produce. And I will will stand on that hill to the day I die, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important one. I can imagine the reaction in your clients in that situation is, oh my God. And I bet they feel a sense of, I can relax, I can just be. Because once you're coming from that perspective in a session where you're coming from a place of, I just have to be in this session rather than I have to do something in this session, what you actually get out of that session can be so much richer.
Yes.
Can't it?
Yes, absolutely. I've noticed that trend too, is like and even when I go to my coach and I have like a bullet pointed list of things that I want to get through, it's just, okay, it's not that great of a session. But when I just kind of open up and let it go where it needs to go more organically, it seems to be much, much deeper.
Yeah. And so your business specifically, what do you notice about the types of people that come into you? Are there any kind of similarities or patterns that you notice in the different people coming to you? Or is it all very different?
No, there are two things that my clients typically are, and that is me 5 years ago. So really disenchanted with something about their lives, right? And they want to change that. They want to feel differently about their life or their job or whatever. So it's either me 5 years ago, or it's someone very specific who is like a creative of some kind. And they are also disenchanted with what they're doing, but they want to get that back. So it's like the difference I think between those two groups of people is they know what they want. They want their creativity back versus the person who's like, I don't know what I want.
Mhm.
It's just not this.
Yeah. How, as a coach, do you approach those situations where people are coming to you saying, I don't know what I want? Because that's a lot of pressure for that container to explore, isn't it? So how do you kind of navigate through that?
We all kind of, all of my clients have to sort of start in the first stage, which is to kind of rebel against everything that is obscuring the clarity that they need to move forward, right? You can't just jump to, even if they think they know what they want, we go through the rebel phase of things. We take a look at what the stories and the narratives and those shoulds are that have built up over the years, right? And we kind of excavate them and take a look at them, and then we get to choose. Okay, all right, so let's say you have a should that you need to be dressed to the nines before you drop your kids off at school. Is that something that you want to bring with you? Is that important to you? Does it align with your values and your priorities, as you were saying earlier? If not, let's leave it behind and we don't need to worry about it anymore. And through doing that, you get to decide what you bring forward with you. And in doing that, it often has an effect of like freeing up your ability to see what you actually want, right?
Mm.
Because let's say you've been a lawyer, you did a lot of school, it cost you a lot of money, and you probably have worked your patootie off to get where you are, right? And you know you want something different, but your brain is just like, I'm so stuck in this rut of like, what are the law adjacent things I could do with my time, or what, you know. And so when you go back and you start to excavate all those expectations and those shoulds that cloud that clarity,
Hmm.
you get a real reconnection with what, and it's so fascinating what people want to do with their time. And there's money stuff that comes up too, is like, well, if I didn't have to make money, I'd do this. I'm like, okay, that's awesome information. Let's go after this and let's figure out how we can support you with a money making activity over here, but get you the resources you need to be able to do what you really want to do. There is always a way to make it work, but you have to do the excavation first.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you can't trust the answer,
Yeah.
right? Unless you've gotten rid of all that crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm quite a visual person. I just imagine like a treasure chest in the middle of some really long grass. And
Mm-hmm.
you kind of guiding people to go, right, do we need this piece of grass? No, we don't. We can cut this out of the way. Do we need this piece? No. And you're kind of just getting further and further to the actual treasure chest in the middle of the grass. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to extend the metaphor, like sometimes you take a detour and like you got to work your way back, and that's okay, right?
Hmm.
Like there are so many different ways to get to the same place. And that's one thing that my clients too often come away with is this understanding, this like, take the pressure off of finding the right way to do
Yeah.
things. Just find a way that you like or that works for you, right? And you always have the ability to adjust and change your mind and whatever. So if you decide to quit your law job and be an artist and you're like, well, actually I kind of want to go back and do law, great, do it. You have
Hmm.
that, you reserve the right to change your mind.
Yes. And I love the fact that you've put, because I've written down here, creativity, artist, because I know you said that that was the second type of people or the type of person that comes up for you in terms of clients. But I know that you said right at the start that you're also an artist.
Yeah,
And I'm just
yeah.
really intrigued to see, because I can see colours in her background as well, by the way, guys. So I just wanted to know, what kind of artist are you, and what do you love to do?
I am a watercolorist, and well, I'm trying to like dabble in other mediums as well, but I mostly do animals, birds, landscapes, natural things. I really love kind of the natural world, with a little bit of whimsy in there too. So sometimes I throw in like fantastical elements too. So
That
it's
sounds amazing.
such a lifeline for me, and I can tell the difference if I've had the chance to be creative a day and then not the next day. Like my mood is definitely different.
Yes. And I think it's that I brought it up because I think it's just such a wonderful example of highly sensitives, I think, are quite multi-passionate.
Yes.
And I also think that we need something that calms us, whatever that looks like for us. So for some people, it might be walking in nature. For some people, it might be painting. For others, it might be kind of a form of meditation or yoga. I just love hearing what other people's ways are of finding that calm and balance.
Yes, yes. And painting is definitely that for me. I notice a difference in my breathing. Like I breathe when you know how you kind of get up in your rib cage when you're working sometimes and you don't really take a full breath. And then when I'm painting, I can breathe. It's interesting. It's really interesting.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And in terms of what you're doing in your business, is there anything you would like to share with the audience that maybe they would like to find out more about you or how they can work with you?
Yeah, sure. I am currently accepting clients, but the real rock star of my current coaching practice is the Real Change Kickstart. And it's exactly what we were talking about. It's focused on rebelling against all of that kind of crud that gets calcified on top of who you are and really reconnecting with what lights you up. And that honestly, there's no bigger gift than that to really reconnect with yourself and what lights you up. So if people are interested, it's a 45-day one-on-one intensive, and you can check it out on my website, megtrucano.com. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. I'm there too.
Yay, thank you so much. And just to kind of dig into that a little bit deeper, so it's a one-on-one intensive. Like you were just talking about there, it's really talking about going from not knowing where you want to go, what you want to do, into really having that idea towards the end. Have I grasped it?
Yeah, so there's actually 3 different segments. So you have to own it. You have to own where you are and own your part in creating your current reality. Then you have to unlearn all the nonsense that you've learned. And then you have to defy and decide. You have to actually decide what you want to do next. And so, yes, that is one of the outcomes for sure. And if people are, a lot of times it's just a freeing, and then it begins the process of exploration. But you have to rebel against all the things that you were told you had to do your entire life before you can get there.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think that would be really incredible for a lot of people just to go in, check out and sign up for. I think it sounds amazing. So thank you so much. And thank you for such a really lovely, deep conversation. Is there anything else you would like to add before we kind of wrap up?
No, this has been really wonderful and great for my soul. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, it's been a really good, deep, like you said, almost like a soul cleanser, this one. It's been really lovely. So thank you so much. And I'll be back next time with another episode, guys. I will see you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.